Hello, it's week 25 of season 3 of the Andy Griffith Show. This week's episode title is The Darlings Are Coming. Barney.
The Darling family comes into town in their beat-up old truck. 4 boys, a girl, and the daddy. And they stopped in town to put water in their radiator. And Andy walks up, and the girl, named Charlene, gets out of the truck. She says she wants to look at the pretty man. And the daddy tells her to get back in the truck. And then he tells Andy they're in town to meet a soldier named Doug coming in on the bus. He's Charlene's fiancé.
And Andy warns him about dipping his hat in the horse trough, and then warns him about illegal parking. And then Mr. Darling asks for directions to the Mayberry Hotel, so he tells him where it is.
But Mr. Darling goes into the hotel, and he registers as one guest only. And then he asks for a back room. And then while the desk clerk is on a sutter break, he pulls the rest of his family and a bunch of band instruments up on a rope through the window into their room. And then they practice the songs they want to play at Charlene's wedding.
But then the desk clerk comes back from supper and hears them playing, and so he goes back and gets Andy.
And Andy figures out that the family members are escaping out the back window whenever somebody knocks on the door. So he goes out there and catches them coming out the next time they start playing, and the desk clerk knocks on the door. So he runs them off from the hotel. And then that night on his front porch, he hears the music again. And he finds them in a vacant store, and then he runs them off again. But this time he has an idea. He lets them stay in the jail. And then he and Aunt Bee feed them, and then Andy plays guitar with them. And then Charlene flirts with Andy like she's been doing since they got to town.
And then the next day when the family goes to the bus stop to meet Doug coming in on the bus, Charlene's not there, so they go looking for her. It turns out she's in the courthouse chasing Andy.
So when they walk in the courthouse, Charlene has Andy in a hug. And Andy says he's been trying to get away from her, that Mr. Darling don't believe in. He says Andy and the soldier, Doug, will have to fight it out over Charlene. But Andy doesn't want to fight Doug, so he goes to the bus stop to meet him and to explain to him what's been going on.
But when Doug arrives, Charlene sees that he's been keeping all these things of hers with him while he's been away from her. So she changes her mind and decides to stay with Doug instead, and she hugs him. You didn't appear in this episode at all, did you, Barney?
No, the Darlings appeared instead. I'll be in next week, though, episode 26.
All right, we'll see you then.